Hello, my name is Thomas. Welcome to British Culture Albion Never Dies. In this episode, I'm looking at the 1983 James Bond movie Octopussy, a favourite of many, many Bond fans. I have two very special interviews, the first with Mark Hernandez, the author of On the Train Tracks, Filming Octopussy and GoldenEye at Nene Valley Railway. We'll talk about the train sequence that happens in the middle section of the film. James Bond has had many, many train sequences, but I think Octopussy remains the high watermark of Bond fighting people on a train. And then we have Matt Spaser, again another interview. He's the co-author of From Tailors with Love and Evolution of Menswear Through the Bond Films, and sole author of the bondsuits.com blog site. I check in every Monday for new articles. He's certainly helped shape my wardrobe. I have a number of other short contributions by special guests. You'll see who they are when they come. And finally, I will have a section given by the inimitable Pete Brooker, co-author of From Tailors with Love and Boy Wanted on Savile Row and host of the There Will Be Bond podcast. He will finish up this podcast as only he can. There will also be a very, very special announcement about a forthcoming episode right near the end. That's all coming up in the next 45 minutes. But first, a section presented by Daniel Gaster, a man in a field, as on the From Tailors with Love blog site, author of over 100 articles, and with a new YouTube channel called The Field Office. It's definitely worth checking out, not just because he's my friend. In fact, we originally connected over our mutual content creation. That's one of the greatest things about the 007 films, the James Bond community. So here's Daniel talking about a little day out that he and I had to a Bond location.
Hello Thomas, Daniel Gaster here, a man in a field. I know we're talking about Octopussy today, and it made me remember about our time last year where you came to visit me and we travelled on the Nene Valley Railway. Now, the significance of this is that the Nene Valley Railway was used for the filming of both Octopussy and GoldenEye. So we boarded at Peterborough Station and travelled to Wansford Station, which is their main base. And during the journey, we spoke to one of the conductors who basically explained that during the whole journey that all the countryside that we could see was basically doubling for West Germany at the time. We also saw the bridge, went through the bridge where the tank in GoldenEye emerges from and eventually destroys Trevelyan's train. While roaming around Wansford Station, we did discover one of the surviving Octopussy coaches, and once we gained permission to explore the coach, we discovered that it is basically just used as a glorified storage room for their tea urns. However, that didn't stop you from climbing on the side of the coach and me taking a number of pictures of you in various different positions. But maybe that's a story for another day. You did the same with the Thomas train that they had on site and climbed aboard Thomas as well, so there was a picture of Thomas within Thomas. Nene Valley was also used to double for Russia for the filming of GoldenEye, as well as West Germany, but has also been used for a number of other TV productions, including The Secret Life of Ian Fleming, which was recorded in 1989, Casualty, EastEnders, and Silent Witness, all BBC TV programmes. But another significant TV shows that were recorded there were Poirot, both The Mystery of the Blue Train and Murder of the Orient Express, which is particularly significant as your wife is a big Poirot fan, and we actually travelled in coaches that were used for the Orient Express. I think that short summary covers everything. Thanks for letting me on the podcast. Just so that you know, I have started a YouTube channel, which I've called The Field Office, and I have videos being released every Monday.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Now, my interview with Mark Hernandez, who literally wrote the book on the central train sequence in this film.
Okay, so first of all, Mark Hernandez, thank you very, very much for joining me.
Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for asking.
Yes. I'm curious, what led you to write the book?
Well, I think it's how this all came about in 2017, when it was the 50th anniversary of Bond. John had come back to the railway as part of the Blu-ray release, the 50th, and they did like a short tour around different UK locations where they visited. So they were, I think they started at Stoke Poges, where they filmed Goldfinger. Went to various places. They went up to the castle in Scotland from The World Is Not Enough. And one of the routes they came down to the Nene Valley, and there was like pictures, and they present each location they visited. They presented that location with a plaque, to commemorate this as a filming location. And for years, I've been going to the railway, and there hadn't really been any kind of, official sort of recognition or anything that sort of said they filmed a Bond film here. So when they did this, it felt, okay, they were giving the railway, permission to sort of say, yes, you're a film location that's been used in a Bond film, one of the 10 in the country, for example, that they picked, and one of the most recognizable. And that sort of sparked it off, really. So when John then came back the next time, sort of 5 years for the 40th anniversary, I thought, well, it would be good to present him with something when he came back. So we got an Octopussy picture, and I just tried to find as many people who I could. So starting with the railway staff who were involved, just to sign it and sign what they did. I was the driver. I was the guard on the train. I worked in the shop, and then as I talk to people, someone would say, "Oh yeah, I know the guy who was the fisherman in the river that nearly falls in when the car goes in. Do you?" Right? Yeah, definitely. So started tracking down people, and people would just sign it. So, but as I met them, I realised they all had stories. They all had recollections, and it wasn't just I did. They just had all these fantastic stories. Some of them had kept bits and pieces, photos. So I sort of, then I sort of thought this would be good to do as as an article. Maybe we could do, like an article in the magazine. But then I just realised, no, it's more than that. I could do a book on this. I just need to find the time. And that time came in, 5 years ago in lockdown, when, like everyone, had a bit of spare time on my hands, looking to do little projects. And I got in touch with Martin Mulder, the Magic Man, from On the Tracks of 007. Been to a couple of Martin's events, and jokingly said to him a couple of times after a few martinis, "When are you going to do something? All these places that you're going to. When are you going to come to Peterborough? Forget the Bahamas."
He's done a few books, hasn't he, on the tracks, right? So,
and because he'd started doing those, and Simon Firth, who'd done some, he'd just done one on Italy, and that was sort of the bit where I kind of thought, right, well, we could do something and tie it in with an event around the 40th anniversary, and it went from there. So I just put everything that I had, put it into some sort of semblance of order that I thought was order, sent it over to Martin, and he worked his magic on InDesign, etc. Put what became the book, sort of. And it's kind of like a scrapbook of memories. I suppose that's how I'd kind of describe it.
I'd say it's a beautiful magazine. I'd say it's a beautiful magazine style book, and it's it is a beautiful work.
Yeah, that was. I'm pleased you think so. That was the sort of the idea that I was kind of like going for, because I'd written for the railway magazine Nene Steam, which was a quarterly magazine, and it was a similar type thing, but there just wasn't the space to do a whole thing about Octopussy and Goldeneye. But I wanted it to kind of sort of have that kind of feel to it, where people could just it wasn't just rows of text. I wanted the pictures and the images in there, and it to sort of break up so people can just read it a little bit at a time, chapter at a time, pick it up, put it down, and it doesn't feel too kind of like onerous, because I've read books, particularly anything around railways and trains. Sometimes you can just go into so much detail. So that's really how it came about in lockdown, and then we sort of launched it in 2023, June 23, at the railway, with this event that on the tracks of 007 40th anniversary. And very fortunate that a lot of the remaining cast and crew members came back. Including Christina Wayborn. I think it took about sort of 5 minutes before my picked my jaw up off the floor when I saw her walking into the hotel.
She remains very striking, doesn't she?
She does, and she was just fantastic that whole weekend. I think she really made that event for a lot of people. And then that year was fantastic, because then she, as you know, she came back to the Cue the Music concert at the O2. So that was lovely to see her again there as well.
Absolutely. I feel you reeled her in.
Yeah.
To the Bond community.
Yeah, she's been reeled in. Yeah.
And how did the community react to your book, both upon release and carrying on?
The book's been well received. It's, I wasn't sure if people were going to go for it. It's a very niche subject,
Sure.
because you're looking at, yes, it's a filming location, and I think we launched it at the right time and to the right people. So people who, and doing it with Martin, because he'd got this sort of catalogue, almost like he's done other filming location books, because it's under that banner. It feels like it fits in. It feels like it kind of fits into that, that world. And because I think, Martin is such a well-known person within the Bond fan community, that was one of the big kind of selling points of it. And I remember, sort of saying to him that when we were looking at the book and the design of it, that I wanted it to have on the front cover, I wanted it to say, "On the Tracks of 007 presents," because it's really, Martin's the one that's really brought, all these, Word documents and images that I've scanned and found and photographs. He's the one who put it into some semblance of order. And first all the PDFs, it's like anything you'll know from publishing, until you've got it, either looking on the screen or holding it in your hands, you're never quite sure. But when I saw it, and the first image I saw that he used was a picture of John Glenn. John had written the foreword to the book. John's there holding up a glass, saluting us all, saluting this film. I just thought, this is going to work. And the reception was good. It was, on the day or the weekend when we launched the event, and the books, found its audience. The book sort of continues to be, sold through, people can buy it on Amazon. It's also in the railway gift shop, and also in Peterborough Museum as well. They sell it in the gift shop as well. So it's it's got an audience, and so far so good. People seem to like it. I've had some good feedback on it. So I'm happy that it's been well received. And it, really, the purpose of the book really was to sort of help, I guess, sort of shine a light on the railway and to, its use in the Bond film, because a lot of it had been forgotten about or not known. They spent a long time there. They were there nearly 2 months filming, which, when you think about it, is, even by those standards, 40 years ago, was quite unheard of. The railway, they'd had sort of things have been filmed there over a couple of days, maybe a week, but there's some great photographs in the book from behind the scenes. There's a lovely sort of I don't know who drew it, one of the crew, it was like a hand-drawn picture that shows how the rail, basically they took over the railway and they made it into it was basically a film set. So it was almost as if they built it on the end of sort of Pinewood, in a way. If they were going to had a railway there, that's how they would have done it. And the layout, and the catering is going to be here, this is going to be the railway, this is where we're going to have the storage room, this is the office, production office. They hide out some of the the railway cottages. So there's a lot more that went on behind the scenes, which, as we all know, if people like this kind of thing about the behind the scenes stuff, the making of, it's all in there about Octopussy, and a little bit also about GoldenEye. That only went over a week or so when they came to film at the railway, so there wasn't as much involvement. But still, the book, Thomas, is unique in a way. There isn't another railway in the UK, another heritage railway in the UK that's been used in 2 James Bond films, one Ian Fleming biopic, and a drinks commercial starring a future 007 actor.
Oh, wow.
So, that was Pierce Brosnan. Pierce filmed a commercial for Diet Coca-Cola in 1987, believe it or not. So just after he missed out playing Bond because of the Remington Steel contract, he filmed a series of Diet Coca-Cola adverts, and one of them just happened to feature a train. It was called the Orient Express. He's in it with Jolie Richardson. She's just been in the series The Gentleman. So that's the thing I tell people. That's why this is an important, location for Bond fans to visit,
and a fun one too. Some Bond locations are more fun than others, and Nene Valley is actually just a really good one to visit. Also with wives.
That's good to say. Yeah, it is. It is. It's great that the railway is still going. It's still in operation, both as a local tourist attraction, and also there are still some film work that goes on there. Not anything at the moment on the scale of Bond. But you just never know what's gonna happen, what's gonna be there. They've done a few sort of TV things in the past.
I believe the David Suchet Murder on the Orient Express was actually there.
That was 2010. Yeah, David Suchet. They've done 2 of the Agatha Christie Poirots there. Murder on the Orient Express, which that is an absolute great take on it, that one. And also they did another one, The Mystery of the Blue Train, and interestingly the train that was used in that film, in the TV film The Mystery of the Blue Train, this was the steam engine that we used at the Octopussy 40th event. Unfortunately, none of the original sort of stock. There's one that's still at the railway that was used in the film, which is the steam locomotive that crashes into the car in the Mercedes that propels it into the river, the express train. But that's been out of service since sort of nearly 20 years, 2005, unfortunately. But so the Mystery of the Blue Train. So I was saying to people, we haven't got a Bond train, but we've got a train that's got a screen pedigree. It's been seen as seen on screen. It's been in a film, albeit the Agatha Christie Poirot. But there isn't an on the tracks of Poirot website or fan group. Not yet. They haven't been in touch. But again, you never know. But there's been lots of things filmed there over the years. Another big one was the rock band Queen did a video for Breakthrough in 1989. That was another one that everybody sort of remembers. And a lot of the times when the railway's used, obviously in Octopussy and in GoldenEye, it's not meant to be an English railway in the film, whereas the one when they did the Queen video, you even see a sign that says Nene Valley Railway, so they were able to get a little bit of a promotion there.
Finally, it can be itself.
It can be itself on there. So that's another.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's been wonderful to hear about the Nene Valley Railway and your experience with it and its role with Octopussy. So, Mark, thank you very, very much for joining me.
No, thank you, Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That train sequence really was amazing. In 2023, I talked to Dale Singh, on location, James Bond Octopussy 1983, interview with Dale Singh, part 1, part 2. That was episodes 114 and 115 of my podcast. Dale was employed as the turban expert, so he was on location every day to dress the henchman Gobinder, played by Kabir Bedi, and his stuntmen. So he had access to all areas of filming. So here's a very, very short clip from my previous episode where he describes watching one of the train stunt sequences.
Thomas, it is amazing, and it's also amazing because now those sort of sequences would be done with CGI.
Yeah,
and they still look impressive, but you wouldn't worry about it. But back then, none of that stuff. I mean, probably one of the most impressive sequences in the film, and certainly one that I've ever seen, and I think, and it was done for real, is the sequence in there where Roger has the big black Mercedes that hits the tracks and the tyres shred and basically the wheels are on the rails and it's going along beside the train and he's got to jump off this onto the train. And then as he's about to do it, he looks forward and he sees a train coming the other way. And, and just as he jumps, the other train hits the Mercedes and the Mercedes flies off.
Yeah.
Now, and when it flies off the tracks, it doesn't just fly off the tracks, it flies off into the river and there's 2 guys fishing in a boat.
Yes.
And this car hits the boat literally square on where the guys are in it. Now that for me was probably one of the most frightening things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there's 2 ways so a couple of things. Firstly, a train hitting a car like that, the car would just kind of like go off the side and that's it. So what they did was they actually had to fire that Mercedes in a cannon. So there was a cannon erected on the side of the railway track. And for that sequence, they basically loaded this. They had a number of old Mercedes there. They loaded this kind of 2-ton car into this cannon, a massive explosive charge under it, and they fired it over the top into the river. And the first time they did it, it kind of landed quite a distance away from the boat. It just didn't look very effective. So they kind of like recalibrated it based on where the boat was. And the second time they did it was scary as hell, because that car literally just landed on top of the boat. And I think one of the stuntmen I saw getting out, the other stuntman, I thought, he's not made it out. That car hit. It's just kind of like that. And the frogman went into the water, and we were just like, oh my God, this is not looking good. And then literally saw some bubbles coming up, and the guy had gone under the water and come out the other end. And he was like, I'm okay. And it was, that's a take.
Thank you very much, Dale Singh. He appeared on my podcast episode 114 and 115. He was employed as the turban expert. Staying on the topic of clothes, Matt Spaser, Bondsuits.com, now joins me as we discuss the many, many costumes worn by the star Roger Moore in Octopussy.
Okay, Matt, thank you very, very much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You are the author of one of my favourite blogs, Bondsuits.com, one that's been very influential for my wardrobe. And so I want to talk to you about the suits of Octopussy. Starting with the easy question, what's your favourite suit from the film?
Octopussy doesn't have a ton of suit. It's not the film with the most tailoring, but I think my favorite piece is the ivory dinner jacket. And I had my own ivory dinner jacket, more or less based on that one. And it's very similar to the Goldfinger dinner jacket, but I think that Doug Hayward did it much better in Octopussy. It has a trim look to it. It's just the proportions are just right for me. I like that it has double vents. I think it's Roger Moore's best dinner jacket of the Bond films.
Oh, that's fantastic. So better than Goldfinger. That's a bold statement.
Yes, but I think it looks better, and it's similar, but it just does things just a little more refined.
I have to admit, when I got married, that was on my mood board of ivory dinner jackets. There's something about it, like you say, maybe it's slimmer. Would that be fair?
It's a bit, yes.
And it's a rare Bond film where he wears 2 dinner jackets, right?
Yeah, Goldfinger is another one of those, and I think the other one is a black notched lapel, which is just what Goldfinger also has. They both have the same as the ivory peak lapel and the black notched lapel. There's a lot of similarities between Goldfinger and Octopussy. It's just one of them.
Oh, that's a good point. And there's a few other tailored items, not suits, but safari shirt.
Yeah, I think the safari shirt that he wears on the actual safari I think it's his best safari outfit. I had Frank Foster make me a replica of what they made for Roger Moore in that film. It just gets it right. It's made of worsted wool, which probably wasn't the most comfortable thing to wear on your bare skin, especially not British wool. Not Italian wool is much softer, but I mean, I've handled the original wool from the safari jacket. It was a safari shirt, and it's not something I would want to wear on my skin without a shirt underneath it.
Do you wear your version of it very often?
Not very often. It's not an easy garment to wear, especially when I live in a city.
Fair enough.
Well, I wear it on excursions outside of the city usually. I've worn it around the city sometimes too. But I feel like the safari clothes need to be worn within nature.
Yeah. And it's an unusual safari shirt from the others. It's got a bit of a stand-up collar, right?
Right. It's a huge collar. I don't know if it's the same collar that they put on the safari shirt in Moonraker. It might be the same one, because it has a 1970s look to it. I think the collar points are about 4 inches long. It's a huge collar.
Yeah, I had a ivory safari suit made, but more like in The Man of the Golden Gun, right? So the collar falls flat against the chest. Which one is more common in safari suits?
I think the one that's a little more like the Golden Gun, where it's in a shirt, it would probably just be called. I mean, in a traditional safari shirt would have like a camp collar type of collar.
So would Moore's in Octopussy be kind of fashion forward, or?
I don't know if I wouldn't say it's necessarily fashion forward. It's not, it's certainly not the traditional safari shirt from that would have been worn, by the British Army. I think it's just trying to be something a little different, but not in a fashion forward
Hmm.
way.
Okay, it's Bond's own style. I mean, it's his own clothes, right? So
Oh, sure.
yeah. Then we've got in a preceding scene a beautiful, is it a tan suit or beige or some light brown?
Oh yeah, that tan suit. Yeah, that is beautiful. He wears it very briefly, and it's a very lightweight suit. You can actually see like in the trousers that it you can sort of see, you can almost see through it. It's so lightweight and
Mm.
very just open weave. So it has to be something that's fairly comfortable for India. I'm sure it's not that comfortable, but I haven't been to India. I know,
No.
I know. I mean, yeah, you have been there, right?
No, 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 no. Only
Oh, you
member of
have
my
not been
family who
there.
hasn't. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't been there. So, but you've been to you have been to Asia where I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
not.
Okay. Yeah, I've been in
And
hot, humid conditions. Yeah.
I'm sure it's no suit could be comfortable.
Not really. I mean, I'll say in the modern day, it's great because you go from air conditioning to air conditioning in a lot of subtropical places. But in the jungles, safari suits genuinely work. It
Hmm.
surprised me actually. So I wore one with a pretty thick canvas when I used to go hiking, and it worked. I don't know why. Maybe it's more breathable than I realize. But the film starts with, oh, sorry, the London part of the adventure starts with Bond in a very classic three-piece suit, right? So,
Yeah, it's a rope stripe suit. I think it's a worsted wool, whereas most of what I think up to that point, a lot of the three-piece suits were flannels.
mm,
So this one's probably not quite as heavy as a lot of the other ones that Bond has worn, but it's a beautiful suit and it's a very classic London suit.
oh yeah. Every time I watch it, I think, gosh, I could wear that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a timeless suit. The three buttons are give it that more traditional look compared to the two button suits that Bond has often worn.
And just to check, for those who are unfamiliar, worsted wool and flannel, what's the difference?
So worsted wool is a combed wool. It's a very smooth wool. It has to do with the fiber, not the weave or anything like that. It's the fiber that the cloth is made of. So you end up with a very smooth wool with some shine. Flannels can be made out of worsted wool, but they're traditionally made of a woolen, which is more actually similar to tweed, but woven and finished much differently than tweed. So you
Okay.
you get a fuzzier look to it with the traditional flannel. And Bond has worn both the worsted and the woolen flannels.
Is it fair to
And
say that
I think
flannel has slowly gone out of fashion over the years?
it has. I know in America where I live, it's certainly become less fashionable. I think it's just become less popular because we have a lot of heat in
Mm,
our buildings in the winter. People don't spend a lot of time outside. They go from their car to a garage. They don't go outside when they don't have to. I live in New York City, so I am outside all the time. I spend 30 minutes walking to my office, 30 minutes walking home. I don't wear suits to work, but I do wear flannel trousers a lot in the
okay.
winter because they can be a little uncomfortable inside the office though. But when I walk around, they're very useful.
Yeah. It's something I really notice when I watch older British films, right? The windows aren't double glazed, right?
No,
They're not
no.
particularly warm or energy efficient buildings. And you notice in some of the earlier films, M is sitting quite close to the fire because he really needs to be. I know some of those old government buildings, they're not designed to retain heat. They're just not.
Right. And I'm sure Pinewood Studios was not warm either.
No, no, not at all. One of the most interesting suits from Octopussy we scarcely see, but it's the double-breasted suit he wears very briefly in Berlin. First of
Yeah.
all, have you ever seen a really good photo of it?
There is a good photo. I think the first good photo I saw was when I bought the Octopussy soundtrack made by Disc back, oh, I I don't know when that came out, about 25 years ago. I think it was on the back cover of that. There's a fantastic still of Roger Moore in Berlin, holding his PPK across his chest. The US VHS cover of A View to a Kill actually has a picture, a still from Octopussy of Roger Moore in the double-breasted suit.
Oh, wow.
So there are some nowadays with the website, there's thunderballs.org. They have some great photos of the double-breasted suit. And it's a classic Hayward double-breasted suit, which is a bit different from your standard British double-breasted suit in that it only has 4 buttons and it buttons at the bottom. Your traditional British double-breasted suits have 6 buttons. They fasten at the middle.
Yeah, so it's quite different, and I think you referred to this as almost a more European style.
Yeah, it was much more common in Europe. The Duke of Kent back, was it the 1930s? Was it, I mean, so I guess he was killed in the Second World War. He's known for wearing this style, but it never caught on in England. Because it originated when you had the Duke of Windsor and the Duke of Kent in the 1930s were wearing 4-button double-breasted suits. And then they both started wearing them fastened at the bottom row of buttons instead of at the top. And I think the Duke of Kent, I believe, had some suits that were designed to only fasten at the bottom after wearing his ones that could fasten to the top with the lapel roll to the bottom. But that style never caught on in England. I mean, the Duke of Windsor continued to wear his 4-buttons suits with them designed to fasten at the top, but the lapel would roll to the bottom because of the soft construction that his tailor used. But then in America, in Italy, probably in France as well, they were making these suits designed to fasten at the bottom. And that was something I'd seen in 1930s suits, 40s, 50s. And then when Doug Hayward, Roger Moore's tailor, when he came along in the 60s, he was making this style at the time when no one else really was. No one else in England was doing it. In the 1980s, that style came back, became very popular worldwide. I still haven't really seen many English tailors other than Hayward doing it. English bespoke tailors, you would find high street brands doing it, but it was really something that was more associated with the continental style. And that's one reason why it became popular in America, because Americans loved Italian tailoring. They loved Armani. Armani was doing it.
Yeah.
So, so we see Roger Moore wearing this. He only wears it. I think he only wears this style of double-breasted jacket twice. So he wears this on this suit in Octopussy, and then he wears a dinner suit with the style at the Eiffel Tower in A View to a Kill.
Yeah.
It's the same cut.
I must admit, one of my very early tailored suits was by an Indian tailor in Oman. And I asked for a double-breasted suit, kind of, I think, Kingsman inspired. And he refused to do it in that style and gave it to me in the Roger Moore, Doug Hayward style with a one very low button to fasten. And I don't think I'd ever really seen it before. I really liked it, but I wasn't sure where this came from. And I never got any complaints, but it was really unusual.
I find it can be, because the button is generally going to be below the waist, very low. And it can be difficult to get a good shape through the waist without the button being at the waist. It tends to kind of bag out a bit at the waist. That's what the Duke of Windsor's jackets kind of sort of had that look. They were, but that was also because of his drape cut.
I mean, I wonder if the more pencil shaped you are, the better this type of suit compared to the kind of traditional English one, which does suit a kind of squarish figure.
Right. But the English one can give a better impression of a waist, even if you don't have one. But they can also fit better if you have a waist. Whereas the low buttoning style is not the easiest to wear.
No, fair enough.
But
when I sit down, it can billow.
Oh, it certainly does. Now, some people like it because they find that the long lapel line can actually make someone look taller and slimmer.
Okay.
Because the lapel is very long. though back in the 80s and in some earlier eras as well, the gorge of the lapel, where the peak is, could be very low on the chest.
Mm.
Whereas Hayward always kept his the lapel peaks quite high. So he would have a very long lapel line. Whereas if you look at what Armani was doing in the 80s and probably what most of the Italian fashion brands were doing in the 80s, they put the gorge very low.
It does seem a fairly reliable way to date like a mainstream suit is how high or low that gorge is.
It is, yeah. It's a very easy way, and I think, and the shape of it, because there were previous eras when, like the 1940s, when gorges were also low, but the it was a 1940s suit and a 1980s suit. They were very similar, but there's always something that kind of
Yeah.
tells you when, which was from which era. The weight of the cloth is often the biggest indicator.
Yes. I noticed that when it's a modern film set in a different era and they have modern weights to the fabric, I guess it's too hard to source something older.
Yeah, but there are plenty of British wool manufacturers, wool merchants that have heavy cloths.
Okay.
They're still made in Yorkshire.
Happy to hear something is. I guess there's one more outfit I really want to ask you about, which is not necessarily tailored. It's the gorilla suit.
The gorilla suit. I love it. I love it. I think a lot of people think it's so stupid, and it is stupid. I've always been a big fan of the gorilla suit. I just think that I think it's just a great gag to have someone in a gorilla suit.
Yeah. And people complain about the quick change. I'm like, it's a circus. Quick changes are their business,
Oh, yeah.
Also, I'm sure there's other points on which you can have hang up about Bond films about where it breaks the realism.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a great gag. And as you mentioned, I think before I started recording, there's quite a few disguises. The impossible jacket at the beginning.
Right. That at Bond in Motion, they actually had that jacket on display. Or they had one of the versions. So you could see, I think it was the tweed jacket side of it and then you could see some of they had, the army uniform you could kind of turn around and see part of it on the other side. It's quite fun.
Yeah, I like he turns the tweed jacket into a military uniform, completely different construction, and it works. It works.
It works, yes. But I think it's just from the beginning. I mean, and Bond's tweed jacket, he's not dressed as himself either. He has that dicky that he pulls off, the yellow turtleneck dicky that he can just pull right off to have the military shirt under it. And so the flat cap. I mean, this is not Bond dressed as Bond. So he goes from one disguise straight into another.
I like it. It elevates the film, definitely.
Now, would you consider the crocodile sub a disguise? Is he disguising himself as a crocodile?
It's kind of an at a glance thing, right? If you glance at it, it's a crocodile. If you look, then you see it's a gadget. But yeah, I'm willing for it to go either way, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just he's always putting on clothes that belong to other characters, so he's disguising himself as other characters, like like he's disguised himself as was it I think it's Mishka that he's disguised himself as, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I can never remember which one is Mishka and which is Grishka.
Yeah. So this is the film with 2 dinner jackets, 2 animal costumes, and I've got to say it, 1 clown suit.
Yeah. Oh, and I love his disguise as a dead man who is wrapped up right before the safari.
As the mummy come to life.
Yeah, it works.
Absolutely gets him out of the castle, terrifies 2 poor fellas.
And then of course the clown. the clown disguise is the obviously the most famous one at the end.
Yeah. Which seems to bother a lot of people. I have to say it's never bothered me. I've always seen it's the other agent at the beginning is killed as a clown, and you're just thinking, why? And then this is the point for me where it all comes together and you realize what that opening is all about.
Yes, I think it's brilliant, and some people don't like. Some people have pointed out that the clown disguise isn't possible because the makeup is an exact match of 009, and he just puts it on way too fast. There's no way he could do that.
I always have a counter to this, which is first of all, Octopussy Circus surely has standard clown makeup, right? As you do for a lot of theatrical productions, it's a standard thing. And also time in films is always skew with. Like how long do they spend on the train? Like
Right, but he
yeah.
he has a deadline to get the bomb defused.
He
knows
does.
when this bomb is going off. He cannot waste any time.
Yeah, that's why it's just put on the standard. The standard will always be faster than, bespoke.
That's true.
Yeah, it's the nature of bespoke anything will always take longer. So,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, my last job was in publishing, and any tiny little change, it adds on such a delay, and you think it's a small thing. Just delay anything, so must be the same for makeup. Okay, I'll just say thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Matt. Now, we've talked about trains, we've talked about clothes, now there are so many aspects of this film we haven't even mentioned yet. But every episode, I like to give a recommended rabbit hole. Wait, hang on, who's this?
Hey there, my name is Joseph Darlington, head of section from Being James Bond, and I am Thomas's recommended rabbit hole of the day.
Yes, the author of the book Being James Bond is my recommended rabbit hole. His book, his YouTube channel, his podcast. It wouldn't be an Octopussy party without him. His reviews of this film, especially on his YouTube channel, have really helped my appreciation of this 1983 movie. So please do check out his channels. Now, I said towards the end I would have a special announcement. I've talked to experts on the movie, but there's one expert of this movie who is world-renowned and cannot be beaten for his knowledge of the film, and that is the director of the film itself, John Glenn. John Glenn directed 5 James Bond films, a feat not equalled by anybody else. He directed For Your Eyes Only, he directed Octopussy, he directed A View to a Kill, The Living Daylights, and License to Kill, along with many other great action sequences and other movies and TV shows too. He will be my special guest on this podcast on my next episode, so do look out for that. Finally, to take us out, Pete Brooker, one of the real stars of the James Bond community. This is what makes the Bond fandom so special. Take it away, Pete.
Thomas, it is your friend Pete Brooker. From There Will Be More Bond. I wanna do a review just for you. No, not gonna do it. Alright, but Octopussy, one of my favourite Bond films, sat beneath my huge Octopussy poster right now. It's huge, it is. Got it imported from France, didn't I? You've seen it. It's the one with Roger, and he's echoed 13 times all the way down the posters. Maud Adams, the back of her legs with the Octopussy tattoo just beneath her butt cheek. It's stunning. So, poster, artwork, stunning. Roger looks brilliant. It's one of the funniest of all the Bond films. I think that's why I did a screening of it at my birthday a couple of years ago. You were there for that. Because it's the funniest and one of the most exotic with all the locations. In fact, Nene Valley, where all the train sequences took place, right outside of where I grew up. So a very personal film for me. And that's why I love Octopussy. And that's why I'm on an all-time high. Oh, I buggered it, haven't I? Yes. Yes, I buggered it. I'm with it now. We got it. Outro. Big finish. On an all-time high. That's it, yeah. So just something. Oh yes, let the flight. What is it? Begin. Yeah. Thomas, you're gonna have to fade this out. Fade it out and then auto-tune it and get all the mistakes out. We got it now. And falling in love on an all-time high. Yeah. Oh, I've lost it again. Yeah, we'll take on the world and win. So hold on tight. Ooh, let the flight begin. Yeah. Ciao.